Now we can get going. I'm excited to bring you guys. You all, what should I say, heard about Mr. David Pearson. He was on the podcast. I don't know, Brett, if you want to share his episode in there. Him and his business partner actually came in one after another, but we brought in Mr. David. And so he's the CEO and of partner of Level 5 Selling. His company is focused on implementing high-end sales and coaching systems that provide leaders with processes, systems, and tools to improve their coaching and effectiveness and significantly improve the quality of their sales calls. So prior to David joining Level 5 Selling, he was the Chief Operating Officer, so COO. Yeah, those are the letters. Man, it's Friday. My martinis haven't even started yet. Of the world's largest CEO executive coaching and leadership development program. And it had over 20,000 members. So we really brought him in because we thought he would make a great asset to our community session. So you guys are going to learn a ton of stuff. We can't wait. So everyone, please welcome Mr. David Pearson. The floor is yours, sir.
All right. Thank you, Colleen. Thank you, Brett. You are an amazing host of this. So thank you. And I was honored to be invited to be here and spend time with each of
you. Keep going. No,
I'd like to hang out and have martinis with you sometime.
Oh, name the time and place.
All right. Hey, today I'm going to talk about, our company is primarily focused on putting coaching systems in place that help salespeople perform at their very best. Today, we're going to focus not on the coaching part, but more on what causes salespeople to really perform well. And we have a whole system that works well. By way of background, I spent 11 years with a company called Miller Heiman. If you've ever heard of Miller Heiman, sales process, sales training, and we have big strategic selling. We did a lot of that. And I found that been involved in hundreds and hundreds of implementations in big companies. And what I found is that it is incredible intellectual property, some of the best out there, but people go back their old ways pretty quickly. And, they go through, they learn it, they, put all the people through strategic selling, check the box, they go back, they're back their old ways fast, and they forget most of what they learned in 60 days. And 6 months later, you never even put in place. But some companies would implement it really well, and it really took getting the managers involved. I later ended up going to work for a company called True Blue, which is a staffing company of over $2 billion in sales, and held a number of roles there, but ended up being chief revenue officer of that company. And it became really clear that I had to get the frontline leaders engaged, and you had to define what a quality sales call is in the company. So what I'm going to talk about today is a lot about defining what a quality sales call is and how to get that quality sales call. How do we make that happen? So I'm going to talk about the level 5 selling, what we teach the managers to get the salespeople to do. And I'm going to make this really interactive. So I'm going to have the chat feature. And it'll be much more fun if we all chat as we go through this. Does that sound good?
Oh, these people aren't afraid of chatting, so.
I like the chatting. When this is done well, we improve win rates, we increase margins, we increase revenue, and we increase profitability. We have some pretty good success in doing that, and I'll share some of that with you here. This is everything we talk about is based on thought leadership. We have a number of books out, Level 5 Selling. That's really about what I'm going to talk about today. That's about defining what a quality sales call is. You'll be interested. This is really interesting. We pull sales leaders together in the same company, and we'll ask them to sit down and define individually what a quality sales call looks like. And they'll write it down, and they'll come back, and you won't believe what happens. We get different answers from everybody. How can you ever achieve quality in your company if everybody can't agree on what a quality output looks like? Think about if that were to translate into a manufacturing environment. Think about if the people at Boeing couldn't agree on what a quality output looked like. I don't think we'd be too excited about flying on a Boeing airplane. So it's important we define what quality is, and we'll do that here today. We developed a level 5 coaching system, which really helps get the managers engaged in how you get people to get those quality calls. We also have a book called Level 5 Sales Leader, which is a field guide for sales leaders, which is 3 things they need to do is coach, train, and recruit. And it's about how you go about doing that. And we're coming out with a new book coming here pretty soon about level 5 coaching communication, because communications is so critically important in the coaching process. So like I say, we're going to focus on the level 5 selling portion. When we put this together, when we did the books and we were developing them, we did a bunch of research. And we actually viewed 2,500 sales calls. And we surveyed 400 sales leaders. And here's some things that we found. 60% of sales calls are scrap and waste. And what we mean by that is they fail to move the buying process forward. It's crazy. Think of how much money we spend on marketing and just to get in front of somebody. I heard that great story a few minutes ago about getting in front of people. It costs a lot of money. And to think that 60% of those do not move the buying process forward, which they don't move the selling process forward. I ask sales leaders all the time, does this ring true for you? And most of them say, yeah, it does. It's actually bigger than that. What I'm going to share with you today can help change that pretty dramatically. We find sales leaders focus too much on lagging indicators versus leading indicators. They spend a lot of time talking about things that have happened already, what happened last month, last quarter, what's in the funnel. Very little time spent on activities and behaviors that will actually change the trajectory of the funnel. So that's an important piece for those of you that are sales leaders. We find that there's a big misplaced focus on quantity versus quality. Now, don't get me wrong. We know we have to have quantity in order to be successful. You have to have a number of at-bats or we're not going to get anywhere. But what we find is that a lot of companies are so focused on the quantity portion, they forget about the quality. And that the quality makes such a big difference, especially when you look at 60% of calls being scrap and waste. Now, some conclusions we had: frontline sales leaders, the linchpin in making it happen. Majority of sales training efforts fall short because they don't engage the frontline sales leaders. And we do find that coaching happens. It just tends to not be very well done because we never taught anybody how to coach. But let me get to the actual part about selling, because I want to make it really relevant for you, that you can take something away that you can put to use. When we looked at these 2,500 sales calls and viewed them, it was very clear they fell into 5 different categories. And what we found is, going from level 1 to level 5, that as you make that shift from level 1 to level 5, it represents increased skills and knowledge that are needed to get there. And from a customer perspective, as people move from level 1 to 5, it represents increased customer loyalty. Now, here are the 5 levels. And I want you to be thinking, as I'm going through this, about maybe think of the last couple sales calls you were on and where they might have fallen, whether it was your sales call or whether it was a sales call that you went on with somebody else. Just think about those calls. A level 1 is a professional visitor. And what a professional visitor is somebody that when they go on the sales call, they believe that friends buy from friends. It's all about relationships. They never get into any deep, meaningful issues. And we know that relationships are important, but we also have to get into deep, meaningful issues. And some people just don't get that far. That's a level 1 seller. Level 2 is a price seller. And these people say, what are you paying right now? I can get you the same thing for a better price. You get that. Or they say, sometimes it's not quite that blatant. Sometimes they're actually trying to have a good sales call and they're asking questions, but the customer drags them into a price conversation. They don't know how to get out of it and get back into a value discussion. That'd be a level 2 sales call. A level 3 is a technical teller. And when you take a look at the technical teller, this is where the sales call, we know about our product, service, and solution really well, and we can't wait to go out and tell everybody about it. And so it becomes that spray and pray. Let me tell you what we do, and let me show you a demo. And it's all about talking and not a lot of listening that takes place right there. Now, levels 1, 2, and 3 are where a majority of that scrap and waste is occurring. And so it's where the scrap and waste is happening. And this is something that we can take a look and move it up into the level 4 and 5. When you get to level 4, that's the first level of professional selling. Oh, hold on. I tried to open my chat feature on the side. Do you guys see it or hopefully not? I didn't want to make sure if there's chats coming through, I could see them. Level 4 is a product service consultant. And this is everything you would expect of a great professional salesperson. They ask great questions. They understand what's important to their customer. They link back a solution. They differentiate. They gain commitment to keep the sale moving forward. But think about this. As a product service consultant, it's all about finding a fit for your solution. Now, when you get to the value creator, now what you're doing is you're doing a lot of the things that you see in level 4, but now what you're doing is you're actually helping shape the thinking of the person that you're talking to. You're shaping the solution, bringing ideas and insights to the table that help them be more effective in their overall business. So when you start shaping the way they're thinking, that becomes because you're bringing that value to the table and your ideas that you're bringing, it makes a significant difference. Now, I would love to see in the chat, where do you think, I know a lot of you might be, you might be, you've got your company that you run and do most of the work here, and some of you might have some salespeople. Where do you see that most of the sales calls fall that you see in your organization, whether it's you or whether it's others? Just drop in the chat really quick, whether 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, wherever you see it. So I see some coming in here. 3, technical teller, migrating value creator. Good. More on the 3. This is really common. And I'll tell you, we all fall on it sometimes. I see a 5. Good job, Tyler. Technical teller, 4 and 5. Good. So look, I like to think that, typically I'm a level 4 and 5 seller. I try to, I live this stuff, but every once in a while, you might have a call that doesn't fit there. I had a call not long ago where I got off the phone. I go, what just happened? I just did a level 3 call. I can't do that. But I'm going to tell you what was really good about it, is that I walked away knowing immediately at that call, I fell into a level 3 trap. Where did I go wrong? What could I have done differently to make this a level 4 and 5 call? And so I knew what I needed to do differently. I see a lot of answers here. I see a lot of 3s and 4s, and those are really common. Sometimes a 2, some people in the 4 and 5 category. This is pretty common with what we see. I like this. I think I might be a price seller sometimes. I love the fact that you are self-assessing, truly looking inside and saying, hey, this is where I think I fall, because that's how we get better. How do we get better if we don't know? If I could get each of you on this call to walk out of each of your sales calls and think to yourself, that was a level 3 call. What would I do differently to be a level 4 and 5? Wow, that'd be great. And so let's talk about how we do that. I'm going to show you where we see that most people fall in this. In fact, 10 to 15% we found fell in the professional visitor category of the sales calls. 15 to 20% fell in the price seller. We see about 40 to 50% fall in the technical teller. So I saw a lot of in that technical teller category. It's pretty common. 15 to 20% fall in that product service consultant. And as a value creator, we find that 10 to 15% fall in that value creator category. And so this is a bell curve. And what we want to do is try to think about how do we move people over and get it more into this side over here. And I'm going to tell you what happens. It's pretty interesting and why we care about this and why we should be thinking about this all the time in our selling efforts. We find across our entire customer base, 53% higher average revenue per sales rep for people that sell in level 4 and 5 versus 1, 2, and 3. This is a measure we look in each of our clients. Where are they selling today? And what are their average revenue sizes for each of the, for the people in each of the levels? So if you think that somebody has $100,000 in a typical 1, 2, and 3, the 4s and 5s are selling $153,000. It's worth it to figure out how to get there. We, on average, in companies we work with, we move 18% of salespeople over that were in level 1, 2, and 3 over to level 4 and 5. So it's really powerful. I'll just give you a couple things that are kind of fun, and I like them, but it shows that we come in and look at this company. This is a fairly large company, but they took a look at their sellers in June, had about 65% in scrap and waste, and the rest was over in the value creation category. And then 6 months later, they measured again, and they were able to raise their value creation category to 51.6%. That's big revenue impact right there. We had another one that this is all pre-COVID because you don't want to mess numbers up, during COVID, just things are so volatile. But we had 306 sales reps, 56% were achieving quota, and 12 months later, 74% were achieving quota. So you got more than 50 people more that were achieving quota. And I'll give you one more. That's kind of fun. And by the way, we work with all kinds of small companies too. I'm giving you really big ones, but that's what we have is some case studies that are kind of fun. But 1,115 reps, they measure their average revenue per rep, and they measure their average sales margin. But the thing was, what was really cool about it is they only took 542 and they ran them and put them through a full coaching initiative and put this in place. And they saw 381,000 in higher revenue for the salespeople and $78,000 higher margin. So it's worth it taking time to figure this out and spend time on it. I want to park right here for a minute. So thank you for all the stuff you put in the chat feature a little bit earlier. And I want to do a little bit more of an exercise here. And we do this a lot with salespeople. But I want you to just imagine now, even if you're an individual contributor developing business on your own, I want you to imagine that you are coaching somebody, because this will help us as we take a look at how do we move from level 1 to level 2 or 3 and 4, and how do we move up the levels here. But I want you to imagine you're coaching somebody who's a level 1 seller. What advice would you give them? Just put it in the chat feature. Think about a level 1 seller. They believe that friends buy from friends. They will, they come in, they'll talk a lot about what happened last weekend, or they'll talk about the Super Bowl coming up, or the hockey game, whatever it is. They spend a lot of time talking about that because they think that friends are going to buy from friends, never get in any deep, meaningful issues. What type of coaching would you give? Just drop something in the chat. Ask, earn questions. Ask what are the biggest problems the prospect is facing. Learn the process. Learn what get the customer motivated, upset, energized. Get into hospitality. Instead of telling someone their problem, guide them there. Good. Discovery questions. What's your current sales process pain? What are you experiencing right now? Excellent. Yeah, we have to look, building relationships is important. It's good, but we have to transition that into conversations where they start asking questions, doing their research before they get in there. Those are good. Ask earnest, sincere questions. I love that. When I first started selling, a sales manager said to me, David, get it through your head. You're in the business of helping people and not selling people, and you'll be successful. Learn what the needs of your buyer persona, find solutions to solve those needs, conduct market planning and strategy, get their story, and listen. Yes. Excellent. These fit in a lot of places. Let's think about level 2 really quickly. What advice would you give somebody who's a level 2 seller? Now, these are people that they come in and it's got to be a volume game if you're a level 2 seller. You're trying to sell the lowest price, and I'm sure you're not the lowest price solution provider out there. I like this, Kathy. Shut up about price. Let's not talk about that. What do you think you'd be doing? And like I mentioned before, sometimes they may not purposely get into price. They might actually be trying to have a good sales call, and they get stuck in that price. They need to get out of it, back into a value discussion. Create value. You need to establish value first. Absolutely. Talk outcomes. Yeah. Let's ask questions about what potential outcomes are important to them. Value and quality of the product. Price isn't a competitive advantage. You devalue your capabilities when opening a price. Absolutely, you do. Yeah. Do you want to be a me too? You guys aren't a me too. You're way better. Let's take a look at a technical teller, and we'll just do one more just for fun here. Technical teller, level 3 seller. This is where 40 to 50% of salespeople fall. This is let me tell you what we do, spray and pray. I've been trained all about our solution, and I can't wait to tell you all about it. Let me show you, let me give you a demo. What advice are we going to give that level 3 seller? KISS, keep it simple. Tyler, they don't understand the value our services deliver, so show them how we impact lives. Then you want to triple our price. Yeah, that's the price seller. What about on the technical teller? If you must talk technical, learn how to remove the technical and make it understandable. Yeah, right. Make it about them. That's why you want to do that. What's in it for me? Stop being such a teacher. That's an interesting one about stop being such a teacher, because we like that. That's fun. From our perspective, we feel like, wow, I did a really good job. I showed them our entire system, and I told them all about it. And the reality is it's not about us. It's really about them. How are we going to help solve their problems? I've fallen into 3 easy. I need to scroll up there. It needs to be what the prospect's needs, not what you have to offer. They don't need to know everything about what we do. Yes, if it's not important to them, why talk about it? How many times do people tell you way more than you ever need to know? In fact, good comment there, because one thing that happens when you tell people too much is it creates more objections. because it's like, oh, I didn't think about that. And they ask more questions, and it makes it more complicated for them to buy. Here's Paul, what service solution are you looking for? How will that solve your problem? That's right, we're focusing on the problem. Well, that was helpful. And I think about when we get, I'm stopping on 3 here, because if we can get to 1, 2, and 3 and move it to 4 and 5, we're going to see our sales. We're going to see big differences in our average deal size and average revenue, the amount of revenue that we're developing. And so just making sure we're very aware of what level of calls we're having when we come out of those calls and what we need to do differently to get in those calls. Planning calls, asking great questions. Those are keys in this. Listening more than talking. I know it sounds so simple, and you're probably, a lot of you are doing that, but you see how many calls we do see fall in those lower levels. I thought you might find this really interesting. Let me move this over here. Why is a quality sales interaction so important? Okay, let me ask you this. How much time do you think you spend selling each week? What do you think people say when I ask them that? On how much time they spend selling? I usually ask people how much time they spend working, but how much time do you think they spend selling? What do you think? Drop some in there. 25%, Kathy? Thanks. Ugh. Yeah. And any other thoughts on how much time you think that you spend selling? I know we get caught up in all kinds of stuff that may not be selling. 50%, Frank? Thanks. That's good. Always selling. ABC. Always be curious is what I think that means. 10%. Yeah. When I talk to people, I say, how much time do you spend working? They tend to say, oh, 50, 55 hours a week, 45 hours a week, somewhere in that range is what I tend to hear. I'll say, how much time do you spend selling? And I'll hear most of the time. And I'll say, well, let me give you a definition here. Selling is defined as time spent with a customer, uncovering some sort of gap from where they are today to where they want to be. When you take that and take a look at how much time people spend selling, the number changes. And in fact, I'll find numbers where people say, oh, I spend 50, 60, 70% of my time selling. The amount of time that people spend actually with a customer uncovering some sort of gap from where they are today to where they want to be, there's some pretty heavy research on this. It is about 15% of their time. It's 5 to 8 hours. Now, this is not to say that we should be figuring out how to make that 15 hours, because that may not be realistic. But what we need to do is we need to make sure that 5 to 8 hours is the best possible. Think about that scrap and waste. If 60% of those calls in those 5 to 8 hours are scrap and waste, wow, that's painful. Yet if we can have really good calls, that's important. So some things to think about. Make sure you got a good call plan when you go into your calls. I don't go into a single sales call without a call plan. 100%, I write up a call plan. I mean, unless something happens last minute, but typically I've got time to do my research, and it just makes the call far, far better. And think about what you're going to do to move that sale forward. So let's take that one for a second here. This is about objectives and establishing objectives. And this is really important, because when you do your call planning, walking into a call, you need to make sure you clearly understand what can we possibly do to move this sale forward. So what is a sales call objective? Well, it's a clear next action that will keep the buying process moving forward. Now, let me ask you a question. What do you think let me go forward here. What are the elements of a good call objective? Can you put that in the chat feature? Tell me what you think makes for a good call objective. Keep in mind, 60% of calls do not move the buying process forward. So these call objectives are critically important to driving success. Kathy, need to get to the next step, seeing if there's a fit. Depends on the stage and the intent. I like this, James, developing significant and specific questions. Excellent. Well, I'll tell you some things I think are really important here. There must be a reciprocal action where the buyer is taking action and you are taking action. So let's make sure there's a reciprocal action there. And so a lot of times we'll see that people will have an objective where they're taking all the action. and the buyer's not taking any action at all, they're like, okay, that does not work. Kathy, you said define that. Are you talking about the element of a good call or reciprocal action? You drop a note in there. I'll see if I can respond. Reciprocal. Yeah, that we're taking equal reciprocal. Thank you. It means that we're taking equal, the action that we're taking, they're also taking equal action on their side. I'll give you some examples in just a minute, but let's make sure the customer is taking action too. The other one is that it's specific and time bound. So when you think about when you're in a call, there are two things I would like you to think about. Do I have a primary objective? And do I have a secondary objective? Now, why do we care about two? Why do we have two objectives that we're thinking about? Whenever we're planning, it's really important that we do that because maybe we won't get the primary objective we have. Let's make sure we have our backup. If we don't get that, what's the next one we can get? I've used this term before about best action commitment. What's the best action commitment we can get at this point in time? And if we don't get that, what's the minimal acceptable action? If we don't get that, and we can keep this call moving forward. It's really important to think about those. And I'm going to tell you something. Take a couple minutes. I'm serious. It does not take very long. A couple minutes before you jump on a call to develop your primary objective and your secondary objective. You will see a significant difference in your outcome. Let me give you some examples here. Kathy, maybe this might help. Tell me if these are good or what I say, needs improvement, needs help. There we go. I'll call you next Wednesday to review, well, I got my chat thing in the way, to review the proposal and your feedback. What do you think? Good? Not good? What do you think? Needs help. Yeah, why would we say that that's not good? Not specific enough, not good. Yes, weak, Frank. Look, so I'm going to call, who's taking action here? I'm taking action. My customer's not taking any action. I'm going to review the proposal. I'll call you next Wednesday to review the proposal and hear your feedback. You know, if they even take your call, you'll be lucky. All right, let's take a look at this one. Daniel, I will, but I feel you have a good read on the group. I trust your lead in this area. Let's take a look at this one. Let's look at our calendars and set up a follow-up call with other key influencers. What do you think? Good? Thumbs up? Thumbs down? What do you think? Nah. Complicated? I don't know. You know, it can be better. We can make it better. But I think overall it's pretty good. Because why? There's some action there that's happening. And maybe it's not significant action. And I agree with you. It's probably, we'll call it lukewarm here. Let's look at our calendars and set up a follow-up call with other key influencers. So here's the commitment they're taking. They're bringing in some people that you've determined on the call that were also needed to be involved in the buying process. And you asked them to bring them into the call and put a calendar entry together. That's pretty good if you can get that to happen. They're taking some pretty good action, pulling other people in. Let's take a look at another one. I'll have my team review your security protocols. What do you think? Good? Not good? What do you think? Needs help. Yes, I agree. Needs help. Why does this need help? Sketchy. Thanks, Frank. Yeah, why does it need help? It needs help because there's no action on the customer's part. I'm going to review the security protocols. What's going to happen now? I mean, it's not much is going to happen after that. Believe it or not, these are very common, these types of things. How about this one? Establish a follow-up call to review the proposal in more detail. What do you think? Good? Not good? I'll tell you, good. Yeah, I think that in the end, it's good. We got the proposal. We're setting up a follow-up call. Their action is they're going to review that proposal prior to that call. So just think about the action that we want the customer to take, and we're taking action on our part too in the process. That's a reciprocal action I was talking about a little bit earlier. So overall, here are some things I want you to think about. These will make a big difference for you personally and for your team. Is self-assess each of your sales calls. When you walk out of that sales call, say, what level was that? I got stuck in a level 3. Man, here's what I need to do to make this a level 4 and 5. Second thing I would do, what would you need to do differently to make your last call a level 4 and 5? That self-assessment is critical, and having a framework for doing it is key. Third, did I have a clear objective going into the call? And did I get that objective? Did I achieve my primary objective or a secondary objective? Actually, I don't care which one it is, as long as your objective has an action to keep this moving forward. This 60% scrap and waste, it's going to make a big difference for you. You're going to see a lot less of that scrap and waste and a lot more success. So, hey, if these are we've got several books out. If you want to learn more, you can see I get pretty passionate about them. We have I really recommend the Level 5 Selling, which is all about how you can, it's all about defining that quality and making sure you're getting the quality and with the skills and characteristics it takes to move from one level to the next. If you're a manager, the Level 5 coaching system would be the one that I would recommend, but they're available on Amazon. You can certainly grab those. And if you have any questions or is there anything I can ever do to help you, I'd love to do it. I love my friends at Vendasta, and just reach out to me. There's my email address, david@level5selling.com. Easy enough. And I also have my phone number there too. So don't hesitate to reach out if there's ever anything I can do to help you. Colleen, do you normally open up for questions here? Or what's the typical?
Yes, opening the floor for questions. So if you want to raise your hand, as like a organized sort of chaos, drop them in the chat or just unmute yourself. Who wants to have the first question? This is always kind of like the icebreaker. I mean, there's the normal people who speak up. So
Kathy's directing
Kathy's
to go back
just
to the primary and
smiling.
secondary objectives.
All right. Yes.
I definitely see that, Dave. There's a diagramming, since no one else is opening their mouth, is really a diagramming of those primary and secondary objectives. I'm interested in seeing more of that because I think I'm probably guilty of maybe that going back a little combination of technical, a little combination of consultant, and certainly moving into that value creator. But then I think maybe I'm not going for blood in the actual sales flow yet.
Yeah, well, thanks for that honest assessment. I think what I do, Kathy, on you said diagramming it, I actually have a pre-call plan that I use. And in the beginning, I say, what's my opening going to be? How am I going to open the call up and set the objectives? And that usually has a purpose, a time, and an intent of what we want to accomplish. And then I define what my primary objectives are, and my primary objective and my secondary objective. What questions do I want to ask based on the research I've done? What key points do I want to make? And what do I think could be possible concerns or objections I'm going to need to overcome? And, literally it takes me 10 minutes, to put it together. I mean, I might spend 10 minutes researching and 10 minutes putting it together, and it makes a big difference.
Now, do you plan for the no as well? For the I'm not ready's, for the I can't do this right now? So I almost think that there's got to be a hedge for the no. That, all right, you're not ready right now, then this, and we'll revisit or make the value proposition different.
Yeah, and it's really that sort of objections and concerns area that you think about what possibly could come back. Hey, we're not ready right now. This is an issue, or whatever. Do you work with companies in my industry? Whatever it is, that you can plan those out ahead of time. What would your response be? Just taking the time to do that, it's so worth it because these things come up, and then you're on your game. You've got a good response and how you're going to handle it. I find it to be really helpful.
Mr. Davis, your hand is up. Oh, sorry, James.
Yeah, thanks. So
next.
I think it was, am I muted?
No,
You're good, Robert.
Oh, I think it was KK Diaz that put one of the comments in the chat. Do you speak to anything regarding like personality profiles, like disc profile, in terms of when you're going into a call?
Oh, I have not done a ton of it, although there is a service out there that I've used before. I found that gives you it actually scans their online presence and will tell you what their disc profile is. And then we'll tell you how you can best to go about approaching them. I thought it was really interesting and helpful to see that. If you can have an idea of their disc profile going in, you'll know better how to go about presenting information to them when you do present information. But I haven't used it a ton. Robert.
I got you. So you don't, so do you ever, so then is most of your information or the data that you have like in these spreadsheets, is that more qualitative stuff? These are theories and philosophies of how to move, someone through these particular selling stages in addition, well, aside from who they're speaking to. Some people are, very analytical. They want you to get in the weeds and get very technical. Some people want you to only give them the facts. Give me the bullet points. That's all I want. Some people want to feel like whatever they're going to be, whatever their decision is kind of like what the herd is doing. So
I got it. Okay. So
yeah.
Yeah, I misunderstood your question before. I was thinking about approach on different types of people. You're talking about relating to the levels. And so now you might have somebody that really wants you to get into the technical discussion. And I think that's fine. You want to make sure you handle whatever there is important to them. But if as long as you do a job of understanding what's important than before, they might have a really technical background and they want to hear all the little technical details. But what specific do they want to hear? I can tell them a million things, but what specifically they want to know about, that I ask questions around that first before I give that technical background.
Thank you.
Mr. Was it James? Yeah, James, you wanted to talk.
Yeah, David. I wanted to. I'm a big fan of Don Draper, and his whole thing was like, if you don't like what's going on, change the conversation. I just brought on my first consultative person to go out and find business for me. I'm beating the sales part out of her. And I hate the word sales. I mean, at this point in time, it's really about being consultants, and it's not about a client, it's about a partnership. Because if you're going out and you're really going to present solutions, you're really coming off as a consultant, and you're really partnering in their business, because they're handing you, whether it's $5 a month or $5,000 or $500, they're entrusting you with their budget, their advertising marketing budgets. That's a partnership in a sense. And I've approached it that way. And that sets you, I think, above anybody who's just sitting there trying to sell. So that's one thing that I do. And that I just don't think that sales and consultant go in the same sentence. I think those days they're over for me anyway. So that's one thing that's been helping me out. The other thing too is I don't try to worry about the objections that a client's going to give me. I'll give them the objections, because you don't argue on the price, because you'll lose that every time. And you'll walk out with a really cheap client if you do decide to take them on, and there'll be a time suck. But the one thing that I like to do is that if they're great at making pizza, they're great at making donuts, they're great at doing whatever they need to do. The thing that COVID has exposed in the last 2 years is that a lot of businesses have forgotten or don't understand even how to manage their Google business profile. And it's really easy to expose that. And it's okay to have that deeper conversation and say, you don't know what you're doing. Find out what they're not doing and let them know what they're not doing. They want to hear the truth. They don't want to hear what you're going to do for them or this. Talk to them about, go in there and know kind of what they're not doing. And when you approach them like that, there is no objection there, because they can't argue with that. Most business owners today that I go see, they know their holes in their digital marketing. And if you can say, hey, this is a hole here, and let's talk about this hole. What are you doing to fix this? Well, nothing really. Okay, great. That's a great conversation starter to have once you get the point, and that's been helping me out a lot too, by just going in and being real about their problems, because that's what they know. They're not stupid. They know, and they know they've been neglecting it for a long time, because COVID exposed them. If they're not strong in digital marketing, COVID is wiping them out. Look at the restaurants. Look at the shutters that are on every business in every town right now. You can go in. It's not a fear tactic anymore. COVID already brought that fear in. Now we're going in and really becoming the consultative person and saying, hey, let's take this away from you. Let's help you with this. And the conversation has really shifted for me because of all of this. And I'm trying to figure that out. But I'm being a lot more honest and a lot more straightforward, because if they can't be straightforward with me, I don't want to work with them. They have no skin in the game.
James, what great insights. It's so true. And it's like, we're in the business of helping people and not selling them. Who wants to be sold?
Yeah, it's horrible.
People want to buy. Let's help them buy. And you have so many insights you can bring them that they may have never thought of before. I used to lead a sales team where I said, look, do you realize that the presidents of these businesses meet with you, not because you take them out to a fancy steak dinner. It's because you know what's going on in their business, and you know what's going on all across the industry, everywhere. You can bring, don't share trade secrets, but bring ideas and perspectives that can help them think differently. When you do that, you make a big difference. And I love your approach, James.
Yeah. And the other thing too is that relate to them as a business owner. Someone told me this a couple of weeks ago, and they're like, you're a business owner too. You go through, it's the same struggles, but we try to put that front on, like we know it all, we're invincible or whatever it is. Hey, you know what? I've been in your seat. I've been running a business for 5 years. I know the struggles. I get it. I can relate to that. And they go, oh yeah, I guess you are a business person. Yeah, not a salesperson. I'm a business owner, man. I have to do my books just like you. I have to pay my taxes. I have to look into hiring people. I have to go through the same stuff you do. So we're both business people. And we get on that same page. They go, oh yeah, you're right. You are a business person. Okay, I got this. Yeah. And they let their guard down pretty quick then, you know.
Yeah. You're genuine. That's important.
Yeah.
We don't want to buy from someone who's not genuine. Yeah. Great insights, James. Thanks.
Yeah, you too. Thanks, David. I appreciate it.
I think Kathy said it best. Empathy.
Yes.
Just empathy. Mr. Davis, you have your hand raised again.
I do. No, I'm sorry.
Oh, all right.
That's first.
Are you sure? I still see it.
My hand's not raised. No
Take
more
it,
questions.
Robert. Go for it, man.
It's a cool microphone he's got.
It's just.
Dude, you gotta
all
have
good,
something
man.
to say. You always do.
Yeah, come on, Robert.
I said it. I swear to you, man. I said it all. This is
That's
this is
okay.
good stuff. This is
Let's ignore
You know.
Robert then. He said he had nothing to say, so we'll just like
there
cut
you
him
go.
off, right? Because I think he was about to say something, but no, it's you good? It's virtual hand up, Robert. Oh yes, the virtual one you have like in the corner. It's fine. Okay, more questions. Someone maybe who normally doesn't speak up besides Robert. Robert, you know I adore you.
It's all good.
Any more questions for David? I find that hard to believe. You'll have to hear me sing. Okay, you guys are a bunch of quiet ones today.
I've actually been talking, but I had two mute mics on, and so I was just thinking everyone was ignoring me. Anyways,
Here we go.
Thank you. This was good thoughts in my head as I'm thinking about what I'm doing moving forward. And as long as I have been in the merchant service industry and or marketing and dealing with merchants, it's very easy to slip into that front half of that bell curve with bad habits. And it does take some intent coming into the call. I like to use the word present, being present in the moment and paying attention to what the heck I'm doing. And when I'm in that mode, it's easier to get to the depth of what they're feeling about their business, what they actually want to accomplish, and then we can actually have a meaningful conversation and then get a feel if we're even a good fit, because I might not even want to bring them on as a client. They may be a nightmare. They might not actually want to build their business. So getting to where I'm finding the right clients and then actually having the real conversations and breaking that down, that was very helpful for my mind to see.
Thanks, Daniel. I've seen that in a lot of companies where, you define what your ideal customer profile is. And what does that look like? What do your very best customers look like, and really define it? And, I found coming up with 5 characteristics of what your ideal customer looks like is powerful. Because so many times you end up chasing stuff that's like, it's not a great fit. Let's find a spot where we can really help people and where they get the most value out of what we're doing. So that's a powerful part of the process too, I think.
I feel like that's an area where I'm really weak. I've always liked Baskin 31 flavors, and I'm always going in for a different flavor. But when you're going in to build a business, maybe that's not the best place to apply that energy. What would you recommend as far as getting assistance or direction or guidance in being able to have a better profile for my customers?
Yeah. Hey, let me tell you what I would do. Sit down and think about your very best customers, those that you would duplicate 1,000 times if you could. They're just great. And write them down on a piece of paper. And then on the other side of the paper, I want you to think about those customers that you have, that you just say, gosh, if these were really terrible customers, I hope to never get another customer like them again. And make a list on the other side. And then think of all the characteristics that your very best customers have. What are the characteristics? What about the size? Think about psychographical information. What type of values do they have? What do they care about? What's important to them? And then, but make a list. And when you think you've thought of everything, think of 10 more. Come up with a big list. On the other side, take your negative, the customers you don't want, and do the exact same thing. When you get done, you compare the two lists together, you'll find things like, obviously one is positive and one's negative, and they correlate really nicely. But take your top 5 and write them out, and then post your top 5 somewhere, and you'll have a very clear ideal customer profile, and it'll just help you focus. Am I focusing in on where I play really well, where I fit really well? We only have so much time in the day, and if we can focus on the right places, it's good. And that's how you go about doing the ideal profile exercise. It's a powerful exercise.
So is the exercise more about discovering, well, I guess part of it's going to be my personal preference too, because I have my personality types interacting with these personality types, or am I overthinking it? It's just as simple as just thinking through, or is that part of that exercise? Like,
well, maybe there are some in there. You've got to think about the psychographical information, the values and backgrounds of people that you like working with. But you think about the company. Like, if I look at mine, in my company that we have, typically it's a certain size company that fits in there, but it's also that they value their people and tend to invest in them. They're not, they tend to be top of their game. They're not companies that are in trouble. They tend to be the very best, and they're trying to get better. So these are some things that I find in the types of companies that I look for. I thought there was an industry that would fit for us, and there isn't. When I do my list, there's not an industry that sticks out. I mean, we work across a lot of different industries, so that's not one of them. That might be one in yours that could be something that could fit. So those are some pieces of the ideal customer profile. Actually, Miller Hyman has in their strategic selling book a whole chapter on ideal customer profile that's excellent, and I've seen it make big differences in companies.
Miller Hyman?
Yeah, they have a book called Strategic Selling, and it's got a great ideal customer profile exercise in there. But it's pretty much what I just described to you.
Okay. Have you, as you've done the exercise, had more than 5 ideal customers? And if so, what process did you go through on deciding on this 5 versus a different 5?
It's not really the 5 customers. It could be 3 customers. It could be 50 customers. It doesn't matter. The customers that really stand out in your mind that you would like to duplicate over and over again. So whatever that number is, it can range, but it's just whatever they would stand out. Say, I want to find more customers like this one because they're great to work with. It fits well. Our service is a good fit. Those are the ones that I'd be taking a look at, and then thinking, what do they have in common? Not only from a size perspective, from an industry, from a values and psychographics, what do they have in common? That's where I'd be focusing my time and energy.
What do they have in common? I've actually never thought of that, and that's pretty simple. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can I add something? Can I just add something to that? I know I said I'd have something to say. One of the things I would recommend, and it's just merely from my own experience, is that I would first ask myself or look in the mirror and say, how do I want potential customers, clients, consumers to engage with my business? We've heard that, within the Vendasta model, and even outside of that, there are basically 3 tracks. There's the do-it-yourself track, the do-it-with-me track, and then the do-it-for-me track. So if you position your business or a portion of your business strictly as do-it-yourself, then you can have a wider scope, a wider swath of consumers that will purchase from you, because they're not asking anything of you psychologically. They're not asking anything of you physically. You're not giving any time consulting, advising, guiding them or anything. It's just purchasing your solution that fits their need, and that's it. But if you want to offer consulting with every relationship, meaning if you want to be, on call in a sense, once a month, twice a month, and offering strategic planning and marketing consultation, then yes, it does make sense to try and drill down to a persona that fits, your style. Because not only do you want to work with people, that respect and appreciate and see you as a professional, you want to work with people that you like.
Yeah.
And, for me, that took a while to get to that point, but I've been at this a lot longer, going back to, my previous life in financial service. I had to learn to be more relationship oriented and to be more willing to say, it doesn't matter how much you have in assets or how much you have, in investment money, whatever else. I don't want to work with you because I don't like working with you. So I think being able to identify an opportunity and then letting it go is an invaluable strength that you can take going forward.
Thanks, Robert.
What a great point, because it's how often do we hang on to something where it's just not a great fit, you know? And
Yeah.
when do you need to walk away? We only have so much time. Let's get rid of those ones that aren't a great fit. It's such a great point.
Okay, so we have Paul first, then Paula. Mr. Paul Ryan, you're up. Did he just leave?
I don't
He
see
went-
him anymore.
Oh, he's still here.
Sorry,
He's muted.
sorry, I was on mute, sorry. I'm a big believer that you need to explain to whoever you're speaking with a detailed or a fairly detailed agenda when you start your sales presentation. And I'm starting to think that it might not be a bad idea to share my objectives or objectives, as you say, but also would it be wrong to ask them what their objective is of meeting with me and to say, is there an accomplishment level that you'd like to hit? What would you like to achieve when we get done here? Here, I told you what I think we could try to achieve, but would you believe that it would be advantageous for you to do what? And what would that be? How would you then classify you getting together with me a successful opportunity of discussing something with me?
Paul, it's an important point. When in the call planning process, setting up that the call opening is really important. You're setting the objective for what you're going to talk about that day and what you're going to accomplish. And I think it needs to very clearly state the purpose, how much time you have, and then what the outcome is. And I think it's important. Imagine if I say, hey, you know, I have a schedule, Paul, this is what we're going to, this is what I have planned. You know, what the purpose of the call today is for this. And I have a schedule for 30 minutes and this is what I'd like to see the outcome for us to be. How does that work for you? And you say, well, no, I only have 10 minutes. Okay, well, I better change. I'm going to change pretty quickly. And, you know, I always ask at the end, does that make sense? Does that work for you? Because they might go, no, actually, this is what I was hoping to accomplish out of this call. Well, great.
Yeah,
I'd like
so
to figure that out.
so it's not wrong. It's not wrong to ask them or let them know, here's what I'm expecting. And here's what I thought you might be expecting. Is there anything wrong with kind of verbalizing so that they go through the thought process and verbalizing to us what they think they're trying to achieve?
Yeah, right. Absolutely. And in fact, when you talk about the primary objectives, those are things that you want, actions you want them to take and actions that you're going to take as well. You may not talk about that in your opening because it needs to be about them in the opening. The purpose of the call is this, and this is what, you know, we got this amount of time and this is what we intend to accomplish. Does that make sense? Absolutely talk about that. Because they come back and say, no, actually, I was kind of hoping that we would talk about this instead. And you can totally reset it and go down the right path rather than waste a bunch of time. I think it is absolutely key the way you set up a call, the opening of a call.
Thank you.
Paula.
Hey, so one of the things that I've been changing my belief system on is, yes, it's important to come up with who you want to work with for that perfect match. And I even love your suggestion about coming up with more of a win-win concept. Let's decide where this meeting's going to go. Love that as well, by the way. Thank you. But now I'm believing that closing is more important than anything else. Once all of that, that's kind of the obvious structure that needs to happen. I could sell all day, but I'm not going to be successful if I'm not closing the deal and know how to do that. In selling, to me, that is important as well. What's your opinion on that, David?
Yeah, I agree. Well, closing is important. If you've done a good job up front of understanding what's important to your customer and you've linked back a solution. And you know, when I think about the primary and secondary objectives, those are all steps towards closing. So if I go on a very first call, if my primary objective is to sell the deal and send them a contract, well, is that realistic? I mean, I can tell you in my business, it's not. I'm not gonna sell on my very first call. That's never happened before. There's going to be steps involved. So what is the primary and secondary objective that's realistic at that point in time? And then as you get closer and further down the line, then one of your objectives might be that you're going to finalize this. They're going to sign an agreement and we're going to move forward. So it's sort of a process of taking them along in the buying journey and take all the way to close. So I think that closing is definitely an important step in the process, Paula.
Thanks, Paula, for your question. I just want to flag to you, David, that it's 11:34. I see James has his hand up. Are you okay for one more question?
Yeah, I'm good
comments?
for one more.
Yeah. Okay. James,
Okay.
you're up.
Sorry, Robert, I'll close this one out for you.
Thanks, bro.
Yeah, no problem. So I think one thing that you need to focus on is figure out your own personality. And then you can figure out how your personality is either going to complement or clash with another one of the personalities that you're going in to talk to. I know I'm kind of a social person, so me meeting with a social person, we can talk for a half hour, walk out and go, oh my God, I didn't get anything done. So knowing who you are first, that personality, you really dig deep and go, okay, this is my personality, and then how does that work together with other people's personalities is important. To answer the last question, closing, get that out of your head. Closing, it's about relationship building. Go into your meetings that you want to develop a business relationship. It's okay to have a business relationship and business, friends that you build. So, those are the kind of clients that you should be looking for, someone that you can have a relationship with. So don't think about the closing so much, because if you have a good business relationship, you're never closing. They're coming to you for advice, no matter what that is. I had a client call me up today. I need a tax person. Well, I don't know. I have a tax person, but that's not my gig. They're coming to me for tax advice. It's ridiculous. And the other thing too, balance your learning skills. If you're always worried and learning about selling, put in leadership. Businesses want leaders. They don't want sellers. They want leaders. Come off as a leader. So when you're doing your reading during the week and all that kind of stuff, you can tell if you're a seller. If all you're reading about selling, and you're not learning about leadership. Leadership is a skill you learn. You're not going to be good for anybody really.
Can I close with one point though, really quickly?
What's
I
up,
think
Paula?
it's also very, very important for us not to demonize the word selling, because I kind of hear you saying that a little bit, James. There's nothing wrong with the way it was done before, that used car salesman situation. That guy never did it right. That guy who handed out 1 million cards at networking meeting, he was ridiculous. That sullied us. We thought that was selling. They had no idea. Selling actually is solution and relationship building. So that's just it, period. But there comes a point when, because I know I was guilty of it before, where you had to start winding down that call. Otherwise, you're doing passive selling, where you're just waiting for the clients to just show up. Maybe they'll show up, but I need to know next month how much I'm going to make, because I'm going to start winding that call down, because my time is money. So to have that person constantly in I'm going to talk to my dog and my wife and I'll get back to you.
Oh yeah, there's that point.
I think it's important to be the salesperson and be in charge of that, to kind of get them to that wind down as well. So that's why I was, I've been doing a little bit of reading, and now I'm like, the closing is more important. It's good for me and it's good for the client.
Does the buying process and the selling process need to be equally aligned? And that is exactly what you're talking about. And we're helping people to buy. Good stuff.
Hey, you all are wonderful people. Thank you so much, David, for coming on and sharing your wisdom. We have a really engaged group of people, and I think you just knocked it out of the park and provided some really great insights. So round of applause for David. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks everyone for having me. Thanks,
everyone.
Colleen.
Have a safe, happy weekend.